Welcome back to the Nerf Report. We got a ton of video game news to talk about. An Xbox gaming handheld is launching later this year. Speaking of Xbox, their next-gen console is currently slated for 2027, but is that too soon? Naughty Dog's Neil Druckmann dropped some new details about Intergalactic, the Heretic Prophet. We dive into our game of the week, WWE 2K25. All of this and a whole bunch of video game nonsense on this week's episode of the Nerf Report.
Are you listening?
Welcome, strangers from distant lands and friends of old. You've been summoned to another episode of the Nerf Report. Thank you so much for joining us, and a big welcome to those of you listening on Apple Podcast for the first time ever. Yeah, the Nerf Report is now available on Apple Podcasts. 7 years later, we're now there. You know, we thought we could hold out. We're like, this Apple thing won't catch on, but we're there. We are now on Apple Podcasts, so make sure to follow us. Make sure to check us out there. We'll include a link in the description, but we'll also have some other posts kind of promoting that. So definitely follow us on the socials to kind of get it going over there. But yeah, welcome to the Apple world. Welcome to those of you listening into the iOS ecosystem as I'm flowing into your earpods. I'm glad to be there. We for years have been available on Spotify and YouTube, and that's kind of been our main focus. But we've had a couple people reach out to us in the DMs, and they're like, hey, I'd love to have you a part of my Apple feed. And guess what? We are now there. So definitely make sure to follow the Nerf Report on Apple Podcasts. Big week. Big week for video games, but also a big week for me. As always, I feel like every single time I come on this show, I'm like, man, I'm so busy. And this week was no different. A lot of travel for work, a lot of visiting different places I've never been before. But one thing in particular that happened is I believe my wife is becoming a gamer. We talked about it on last week's show. Split Fiction just launched. It's a fantastic game. It received incredible reviews. And we ended the show by being like, well, maybe I might be able to get my wife into this. Maybe my wife, who's not a gamer, I can convince her to play. Turns out, she was all in. I was like, hey, you want to play this game with me? It's a multiplayer. It's designed for husbands and wives. It's kind of like couple therapy. Let's jump in there. Yeah, we're in. And, I think we're only like 3 or 4 chapters in, and we'd be further. But, she's not a gamer, so we're learning through that. And that's kind of the fun thing to see is like my wife grew up playing like Super Mario 64. She also played a couple other games, like The Sims. But like this, I think, is her first experience with like dual joysticks. And so like me as a gamer who has been playing video games my entire life, I'm like, I know. Left is to move, right is to view. And we'll be doing things on my 8. Don't forget, you got to adjust your perspective. But she's getting it. She's enjoying it. She definitely is having a fun time. And it's getting to the point where I am now relating to every other gamer husband who has introduced their wives to some form of video game like this. Like I sent a reel over to my wife, and we'll pull it up real quick. It simulates and captures the gaming experience with a non-gamer. And it's like behind every wife trying to jump, there is a husband who is waiting. And for those of you that are like, you're only on the 3rd chapter, it's like, hey, there was a lot of waiting. There's a lot of waiting that was going on the scenes. At times I was humming Brad Paisley's Waiting on a Woman because that's what I felt like. I was like, I'm just sitting here waiting on a woman. That's what we're doing. Now, not to say that's all gamers who are women. Obviously, we wouldn't want to insult female gamers out there. I'm just saying in this experience, waiting on my wife. That's all this game was. Just kind of jumping, having fun, enjoying the story, building our partnership, building our bonding over this video game. It's a great time. Highly recommend it. And I even looked at my wife halfway through, and I was like, this had to be such a fun video game to work on. Like, I would love to talk to Haze Light Studios and kind of talk to some of the developers that were working on it, because for me, one of the things that scares me about like a big video game and developing it is like, do you get tired? Do you get tired of working on the same story over and over and over again? Whereas with Split Fiction, because there's so many different chapters and mini levels and you're jumping between fantasy or jumping between sci-fi, I feel like there's so much change and there's so much uniqueness that like, how do you get bored making this game? Like at one point we were playing as pigs, right? And my wife was a pig who had like a spring and she could like elevate, but I was a pig that could fly, but you could only fly through farting. I mean, where else are you going to get that in the world of gaming? I mean, that's quality entertainment. But we're building these bonds to these pigs, and we're seeing these child pigs on the map, and we're having fun, and we're like, man, this is great. We're playing as pigs. Turns out we fall down this thing, go into a grinder, turn into a hot dog. Spoiler alert, not a bright future for pigs. I don't think a lot of people think about that. But pigs, hot dogs, and then in this game, and this is where I was impressed. Whereas hot dogs were jumping around, I'm trying to figure out what to do. My wife turns on the griddle, immediately knew it's time to cook. It's time to throw them on the time to throw the hot dogs on the stove. Let's get some ketchup. Let's get some mustard. Let's get some relish on them. She knew. She knew that was where we was going, and that's where I was like, she's becoming a gamer, my friends. My wife is becoming a gamer, and I have to thank Joseph Ferris, and I have to thank the people over at Haze Light Studios. Split Fiction, it's a gateway drug to getting your wife to being a gamer. Now, obviously, that's what I was playing this week. I'd love to hear what all of you were playing this week, so sound off in the comment section down below if you haven't done so already. Let me know what game has your interest, what you're playing at the moment, and if you haven't done so already, also hit that subscribe button, hit the like button, and of course, share it with your grandma. Now, big week for me, another big week for the world of gaming. Let's go ahead and pull up the video games that released this week, and my God, is that a jam-packed lineup of games. Now, March 11th, I believe that was a Tuesday, or was that? Yeah, Tuesday. Tuesday, March 11th, we had 3 total games. We had Rise of the Ronin, which obviously I like to call as Ghost of Tsushima Jr. This was a PlayStation exclusive at launch, but it finally launched for PC. Any type of samurai game, I'm all in. I have this on my watch list, and as soon as it becomes available where I'm like, hey, I got some time, let's play a game, I'm going to be playing this. I love this. Can't wait to get more. Second game that launched over on Tuesday was Wander Stop. And then we had I believe it's a horror game called Symptom. And then moving on to Wednesday, March 12th, we launched Metal Bringer and Fate Reawakened. Both look like really cool games. Not really where I'm at in gaming with like what attracts me. But obviously, definitely give those ones a watch. March 13th, we had Beyond the Ice Palace. And then Friday might have been the biggest day for video games for sports fans, because the first game that launched on March 14th was Out of the Park Baseball, which based off of what I was like looking at and like seeing the trailers and kind of reading about, it looks like it's very much like a baseball management style video game, which again, not for me, but for those of you out there, that's a big deal. And then obviously we have MLB The Show 25, which is produced by, I want to say it's Sony. I don't remember which studio it is at Sony, but I know this is a PlayStation-produced game that's available on Xbox, PC, and PlayStation. So it's available anywhere. But as far as baseball games go, this is the premier simulator. So if you're a baseball fan who's getting back into gaming and you're looking for the game to play, this is definitely the one to do it. And you know, looking at the lineup this week before we came into the studio, it got me thinking about like my childhood. And I don't know if this was every childhood for a kid of the 90s, but whenever I think of like back on video games of what I played, Ken Griffey Home Run Derby, man, that is it. What was it? Ken Griffey Slugfest or something like that? That was the game on the N64 I remember playing countless days in the summer. Like, yeah, we should probably been like exploring, you know, causing chaos, being kids and being like, you know, typical summer kids. But no, we were inside playing Ken Griffey Jr. Home Run Derby. We probably could have been playing baseball in real life, but for this summer, we were playing Ken Griffey Jr. So anyway, long story short, MLB The Show 25, it's available. Definitely check it out. And then the final game to launch this week, which I think pre-launched last week if you pre-ordered it, but like it's out right now. It's WWE 2K25, and this will obviously be our game of the week. We're going to be diving into this very extensively, but WWE 2K25, premier video game for the world of wrestling. If you're a fan of the WWE, Cody Rhodes, CM Punk, Roman Reigns, Seth Rollins, the list goes on and on. This is the game to pick up. And I did download 2K24 a couple weeks ago because I was like, oh, it's part of the PlayStation Plus library. I'll definitely give this a try. 2K25 launched, and I'm like, maybe I uninstall 24 and then I go play 25 because some of the things I'm reading about this have me very, very intrigued. But anyway, those are the games that launched this week. Sound off in the comment section which one you picked up, what you're playing yourself. I obviously know times are tough. The economy's rough. You know, a lot of people don't have a lot of extra money. So if you didn't pick up any of them, don't feel like you're bad. Just tell me what you're playing. If it's a game that came out 5 years ago, cool on you. If it's a game you picked up 10 years ago, even better. Let me know down below. And, you know, we mentioned the economy's tough. A lot of people are afraid to say that. A lot of people are afraid to come out and be like, it's a recession. But it might be a recession because I don't know if y'all caught this story. Thick thighs predict recessions. Yeah, that was a story that dropped this week in the world of gaming. Atelier Yumiya, which is a game I've never heard of before this week. Atelier Yumiya is apparently a JRPG, and the internet is apparently very obsessed with the main character, specifically their thighs. And I might be butchering this name. Ryza, I believe, is the main character of Atelier. But anyway, the producer of the game claims that the reason this game is being so successful and the game is doing great is because the economic times are tough. In fact, I wrote down his exact statement here. The producer of the game said, "This is just my perception, but I think that the economy has an influence on what kind of designs become popular. There are certain types of characters that are needed in times of a recession, and there are types of characters that are embraced when the economy is booming." As an example, the producer then went on to say that, like, during tough times, people love, voluptuous body types, and they gravitate towards, like, more motherly characteristics in women during, like, an economic recession. And I don't know if it's just the time, but, like, we might just be in a recession. That might be the thing. And based off the internet's reaction, they might be onto something. A lot of y'all lost your mind over that Sue Storm skin on Marvel Rivals, and that's immediately where I went, where he was like, hey, once the internet starts finding, like, voluptuous body characteristics very, very attractive, I was like, man, Marvel Rivals predicted it. Marvel Rivals predicted that we are now in a recession, and you can thank Sue Storm's Malice skin, because that was the indicator there. But I don't know. It's also tough because it's like, I'm not going to shame anyone for finding something attractive. I myself find thick thighs very, very attractive. So am I stuck in a recession for the rest of my life? Does that mean I'm doomed to be in an economic recession myself? And I'll never have a booming economy of a personal economy just because I think thick thighs save lives. Anyway, that was a story I definitely want to share with you guys. It didn't deserve its own, like, segment of the show, but I found it too funny to kind of not talk about. The second thing I wanted to talk about was all of y'all really kind of loved the tank simulator from last week. And obviously, I loved it myself. But I got a lot of messages, a lot of DMs on the side have been like, you think that's cool? Check this out. And I wanted to highlight one. So this one was sent to me. This is Nomad Props. And essentially, they created a VR Star Wars helmet where they took their Rebel space helmet from Star Wars and then basically put, like, the VR glasses on top, creating what I think is one of the coolest concepts ever, right? Like, MetaQuest, I understand why they don't do this, but if you wanted to create clips to attach onto helmets or bike helmets, I think this would be so sick, because this is what makes gaming so great in the year 2025. That someone who's always dreamed of being in Star Wars can achieve that with a helmet and a VR headset. Like, how can you not love that, right? If you would go back in time and tell 8-year-old Bryant and grab him and say, I'm taking you to the future, bringing him to right in this moment, and say, you've always wanted to be a Rebel pilot, shooting down Imperial TIE fighters, put on this helmet, and then I'm in a cockpit and I can interact and I can move. I would have lost my mind. And I say this a lot, but I want to say it right now, because looking at this, I think it's so important to say. We are so blessed in the world of gaming today. Like, gaming is as bad as it will ever be at this very moment. In the next 10 years, gaming will be so much better. And I think that we as gamers forget that, because I look back at the N64 and I remember playing video games and be like, man, graphics were so great back then. I look back at those graphics now and I'm like, what were you drinking? Like, what were they putting in your Kool-Aid? But now I look at this and I have the same thought. This looks awesome. Gaming could never be better. But the fact is, gaming will always be better. So this experience in 10 years, can't wait to see what it is. Maybe we all actually have X-Wings that we can fly. Like, we'll actually have cockpits in our houses that we can climb into, put the helmets on, and we're in this, like, maybe you can build a Millennium Falcon in your house and play this game. Like, that's what excites me about the world of gaming, and I think it's so awesome. But anyway, shout out to Nomad Props. We'll put their information down in the comment section down below. Super awesome. I thoroughly enjoyed watching this. And if you have any other cool mods or simulations you want to send over, please hit me up on social media. Send them over to me over there. But before we jump into our game of the week, WWE 2K25, I'd like to take the opportunity to thank our sponsors for this week's show, Nerf Gaming News Plus members. Did you know that on average, 12 video game podcasts die every single week? Now, is that a real stat? I don't know. I do this show by myself. We can't hire researchers, but with your support, we can avoid becoming another statistic and keep on making really cool content like this show, along with other cool shows in the future. That's right. By becoming a Nerf Gaming News Plus member, you not only help support independent games media, but you help us create really cool gaming content. Because with your support, we're able to hire things like researchers, writers, editors, along with other people who can ensure that we are constantly coming out with the best content possible for you. Ah, look at that. Another gaming podcast just bit the dust. I guess we should make it 13. It is time for the game of the week. This week's game of the week is WWE 2K25, which I will preface this by saying this might be a little biased of an opinion here because I am a lifelong WWE, WCW, NWA fan. I grew up with it. Some of my most fond childhood memories were a Thursday night sitting down with my father watching WCW Thunder. On Monday night, we would watch WCW Nitro. And yes, I was a WCW kid. I was not a WWF kid because my mom didn't want me seeing Stone Cold throwing back some brewskis. She didn't like the fact that DX was chopping it all the time. So I was a WCW kid because at the end of the day, that was considered tame. Looking back, WWE, WWF, that's where it was at, man. You guys were going wild back in the day. And I will say, wrestling kind of has its ebbs and flows, right? We were kind of in a depression of WWE. And now it's in a renaissance, man. Like the roster in the WWE right now is absolutely wild. The storylines are absolutely epic. And it is such a great time to be a WWE fan, which makes the arrival of WWE 2K25 so much more special. So before we dive into why I think this game is great, let's talk about what everyone else is saying. So WWE 2K25 reviews, let's go ahead and pull those up. WWE 2K25 has been getting rave reviews from the industry and those of you that got early access. Right now, the game is sitting at an 82 at Metacritic during the time of filming this. Obviously, that's going to fluctuate as more reviews come in, but an 82 puts it above last year's game, which is a massive deal for the franchise. Forbes gave the game a 4 out of 5. Game Rant gave WWE 2K25 a 9 out of 10. GameSpot gave it an 8 out of 10. Shaq News came in also at an 8 out of 10. Games Radar came in at a 4 out of 5, and Push Square gave the game an 8 out of 10. Now, personally, haven't played it yet. Haven't downloaded the game. I'm waiting to maybe see if we can get a review copy. If we get a review copy, we're in. But either way, I'm buying this game. As a WWE fan, I will pick this one up. I think it looks fantastic. Some of the big updates for this game over previous years that have a lot of people excited is this is the biggest roster of WWE superstars ever put in a video game. Like, literally the largest roster in the 2K series. And there's some deep cuts in here. I went down the list. You got Ken Shamrock. He's in the game. Yokozuna in the game. Vader. Big Van Vader. Yeah, the one from Boy Meets World. He is in the game. The hardcore legendary Funk is in the game. The Texas native of Stone Cold, Steve Austin in the game. Ricky the Dragon Steamboat is in this game. The Macho Man Randy Savage. Oh, yeah. I'm in the game. Yeah. I'm going to be playing as Macho Man in that game. That is for sure. Jake the Snake Roberts is in the game. Hulk Hogan, Honky Tonk Man, Bret Hart, and Andre. Anybody want the peanut? The Giant is in this game. Big roster, man. And obviously, you've got your current players, right? Like, you got your current wrestlers and your current superstars in this game as well. Cody Rhodes, CM Punk, Roman Reigns, Seth Rollins, Kofi Kingston, another Austin native, and Logan Paul. I only mention Logan Paul because we're here on YouTube, and every time we talk about Logan Paul, the views go up. And I will say, Logan Paul being in this video game makes it very interesting. Because I'm sure the people at 2K are monitoring the play levels of characters to figure out who might be the cover athlete of next year. And I'm sure there are meetings going on where 2K is calling Logan into the meeting and being like, Logan, your character is quite popular this year. Yeah, I don't know what you did, but the Japanese markets love beating the living hell out of you. Do you know why Japan is so mad at you, Logan? Like, what could you have possibly done? The other big update for WWE 2K25 that I think is a big deal for players is intergender matches are now part of the series. Never before in a 2K WWE video game. I say never before because I'm trying to think in my head. I don't recall seeing it recently. Have you been able to take a WWE superstar man and a WWE superstar woman and put them in the match? Doesn't mean I don't want to know what would happen, right? I would love to see Rhea Ripley. I'd love to see Mommy get her hands on that slime Dominic Mysterio and just paintbrush the living hell out of him in a ring. Rey Mysterio. Put Rey Mysterio in against someone like Nia Jax. How would Rey handle that? Or, let's get even crazy. Andre the Giant. Let's put him up against like a Liv Morgan, right? Size differences. Who's going to win that? Probably Andre. But those are the matches we've never been able to have up until WWE 2K25, and I think that that's a huge sticking point. Another big point of conversation here is chain wrestling is back, which I will be the first to say is a big W for the series. Chain wrestling definitely brings back a level of competitiveness to the game that I think was missing. And it really does mean like the first grapple of the match, it counts. Because anytime you see a wrestling match, they throw arms, they grab, they're ready to go. In the WWE 2K game, you're now doing that. So every single match you're throwing it, and whoever gets the upper hand of the chain wrestling back and forth, that's who's probably going to get the upper hand of the match. Now, you obviously have reversals, you have comebacks, you have all that type of stuff. So if you lose the chain wrestling, it's not over for you. You can obviously keep on playing, but chain wrestling being back is a big deal. And the last thing that I was reading about this game that I think is really dope is WWE 2K24, so last year's game. They made it so your face paint would start to wear, right? First time we ever saw that the face paint began to deteriorate from the wrestlers' faces. Now, they've gone even as far that during the matches, bruising will begin to appear on your body. So if Gunther is just like slapping your chest, or Ric Flair is coming in just just hitting you with chops, you're going to start to get bruises. Kendo sticks to the back, you'll start having like straps on the back where you're getting hit, bruises on your arm. It's a level of detail, obviously not necessary in a video game, doesn't make a good game, but it just immerses you so much more into the world of WWE, and I think it's super awesome. But anyway, WWE 2K25, personally, I am super excited to play this firsthand. It is our game of the week, and WWE 2K25 is available right now for PlayStation, Xbox, and PC. Next up, the shroud of mystery surrounding PlayStation's upcoming Intergalactic, the Heretic Prophet, is slowly being lifted because we got brand new details about the game's future, the game's background, and what gamers can expect at launch. I will say this, right? I'm a big Naughty Dog fan. I've loved every single game that Naughty Dog has come out with, and Naughty Dog could put their label on anything, and I will buy it, right? Like, it's just where we're at in the world of gaming. I will say, I'm hyped about this game. I think it looks very cool. I'm not very hyped about the name. Intergalactic, the Heretic Prophet. Maybe once I play it, I'll be like, oh, it all makes sense. But it's just like, what does that mean? Like, the Intergalactic, the Heretic Prophet. Now, there's been a lot of conversations surrounding this game that maybe it's going to be a series, and maybe this is just part one. So maybe the game is called Intergalactic, and then the Heretic Prophet is just the title for the first one, just like Star Wars A New Hope, Star Wars Empire Strikes Back, and Star Wars Return of the Jedi. That's what I'm holding out for. I'm holding out for the fact that this game is actually called Intergalactic, and the first chapter is just the Heretic Prophet. So maybe moving forward, I won't be like tongue-tied when I'm talking about it, and I can just be like the Intergalactic Space Heretic Prophet video game from Naughty Dog. I can just say Intergalactic. But anyway, I think it is very safe to say, outside of the name, there's a lot of mystery surrounding this game. Let's rewind it a little bit, because we just found out about this game almost 3 months ago. In the 2024 Game Awards, a night filled with new game announcements, celebration, and of course a very finely dressed Jeff Keighley. Shout out to Jeff. But during the show, PlayStation and Naughty Dog both showed off a first look at Intergalactic, the Heretic Prophet, the first ever sci-fi video game from Naughty Dog, along with being the first brand new video game from Naughty Dog since 2013. And the trailer was cool. Look, it looks very interesting, but we didn't see much gameplay outside of like that dope laser sword battle running sequence we got at the end. But it looks intriguing, right? There's enough there to kind of get me interested. I'm not turning it off, but like I want to see more. And since that teaser, Naughty Dog has just been super tight-lipped about this game. We don't know much. We don't know when it's coming. We don't know what it's about. We just know it's set in the future. We just know it's a space game. So fast forward to this week, and Naughty Dog's Neil Druckmann took part of a creator-to-creator video with Sony that participated with Neil and Alex Garland from 21 Days Later. The upcoming, 21 Years Later that's coming out? Great movie. It's definitely worth watching. But the two of them sat down and kind of had like a little love session, right? Alex was like, I love The Last of Us. It inspired me heavily. And Neil Druckmann's like, I love 21 Days Later. It inspired me. Alex is like, yo, Last of Us made us make 21 Years Later so much better because we knew there was so much more storytelling we could tell. And it was just a great video. We'll definitely include the link down below. But the video did include some new details about Intergalactic, the Space Heretic, including when the game might be taking place.
I've been working on this project at Naughty Dog for 4 years now. We just announced it. It's called Intergalactic, the Heretic Prophet. It's our venture into more sci-fi stuff.
Are you talking deep space? Are you talking about, is it Earthbound?
It's not Earthbound. It takes place 2,000 years in an alternate future that deviates in the late 80s.
Wow.
And we spent like years just coming up with that timeline.
Now, some of that we've already known, right? Like, the game takes place in the future. It's a space game. It's not a space Earth game. But the fact that it's a 2,000 years in the future on a timeline that deviates from the late 80s is very interesting. And the other big takeaway here is Neil said that Naughty Dog has been working on this game for 4 years now, which I know a lot of people would say that, but like, the game's got to be coming out right now, right? Naughty Dog's been working on this game for 4 years. It's got to be launching in 2025. Intergalactic, the Space Heretic, is launching in the December of 2025. It's confirmed, which I feel like I definitely would say these days that means nothing, right? You could have said like The Last of Us took 4 years, so this game took 4 years. That's when it's going to be launching. But like, I feel like GTA 6 has just thrown all out the door. Grand Theft Auto 6 has been in development for like 7 years. So this game, 4 years in, means nothing. We could still be 3 years from now here on this channel, God willing, still talking about this game. So keep that in mind. The part that did intrigue me here is that they said Naughty Dog spent the past couple years creating the events in the timeline that deviates from the late 80s, which is very interesting because keep in mind, first space shuttle to ever go to orbit, 1981, right? I think it was the Challenger, went up 1981. Cold War ended in the late 80s and Berlin fell. So in this game's history, that must be the pivotal moment, right? From that point on, everything is different from our timeline to theirs. And that could be really interesting because think about that. Everything that's happened since the 80s never happened. You know, no Trump, no Obama, no 9/11, no Bush, no Iraqi war, no Afghanistan war, no Clinton. Maybe Intergalactic Space Heretic is a timeline where the world truly unites. And instead of shooting rockets at each other, we're just putting people on rockets and shooting them towards the stars. Maybe we can hope. Maybe we can hope and live vicariously through that world versus the timeline that we're in. Now, next in this interview, Neil Druckmann takes a little punch. I will warn you. He takes a little swing at those of you that did not like the outcome of Last of Us Part 2. Let's pull this clip up real quick.
It's funny. It's like I joke about this with the team. It's like, oh, we made a game with The Last of Us 2. We made certain creative decisions. That got us a lot of hate. A lot of people love it, but a lot of people hate that game.
Who gives a shit?
Exactly. So the joke is like, you know what? Let's do something that people won't care as much about. Let's make a game about faith and religion.
The irony that I find here is just like the state of the internet today is that even though he prefaced this by saying like, the joke is, the internet's not going to take that as a joke. They're going to be like, how dare Neil Druckmann make fun of our outrage for very serious reasons over The Last of Us 2, and now he thinks he's just going to make a game about religion and faith, and no one's going to get upset. It's a joke, okay? He's clearly razzing you. He knows what upsets you, and he's just saying, like, it's just like me saying, like, on this show, we're not going to talk about religions, politics, or money, right? It's not going to happen, because those are the things that all divide us. We're going to talk about the things that we enjoy, video games. It's a joke. Take it for what it is. But on the topic of religion, we are going to talk about religion this one time, specifically the religion from Intergalactic Space Heretic, because Neil Druckmann kind of gives us our first teaser of what we can expect from that newfound religion.
We not only in this alternate history timeline, we've made this where the timeline deviates, this new religion becomes pretty prominent. And then we spend years just building out this religion of like from the original prophet all the way how it gets like changed and sometimes bastardized and evolves over all these years. And this whole religion takes place on this one planet, and then at one point all communication stops from this planet.
Nice.
And you're playing a bounty hunter that's chasing her bounty, and she crash lands on this planet. And it's and I really wanted to make a game about faith and religion, but also about
this. It sounds
just being
awesome.
Lonely. So many of the previous games we've done, there's always like an ally with you and you're talking. I was like, I really want you to be lost in a place that you're really confused about what happened here. Who are the people here? What was their history? And in order to get off this planet, like, again, no one has been heard from this planet for 600 years. So if you ever have hoped to have a chance to get off, you have to figure out what happened here.
And this is the part of the video where my hype levels begin to get super big. Because you talk about spending the last 4 years building a religion and building a backstory. Like, that is some Tolkien level of backstory that I'm expecting right now. Because now you take Naughty Dog, like I said, one of the greatest storytellers in the video game industry. They've come out with The Last of Us. They came out with Uncharted. And now, those very same people have spent the last 3 to 4 years creating a story and creating 2,000 years worth of history. Like, pause for a second. That is so sick. And I took some notes during that last part because there were some key things. The religion in the game is going to be starting in the 80s. They built it up from the original Prophet. So, right, they've got like the early Foundation days. Naughty Dog created that story. The religion, like many other religions in the world, it evolves, it gets bastardized, and then we are where we are today. And a backstory of that scale is going to be so fun to experience firsthand, especially with Naughty Dog doing it. I can't wait. Other big detail came out of this conversation, planets where we're going to be going. All communications have been cut off for 600 years. You crash land on the planet. The game then not only focuses on action, not focuses on all the world around you and everything that you know, it's going to be focusing on loneliness. You land on the planet. You don't have a ghost who's like, hey, eyes up, Guardian, we got to go over here. You're not going to have some type of annoying fairy that's like, hey, listen, you're by yourself. You crash land on a planet as a bounty hunter. You're searching for someone. You're by yourself. You begin asking, where is everybody? What happened on this planet? What is this planet? How do I survive? How do I escape? So you take that, and then you combine that with the backstory that they're weaving, the narrative that they're creating. 2,000 years of history into that very moment. I can't wait. That's going to be such a fun time. Now, as far as when we can expect this game, I know some of you are hoping to see this game later this year. I would say don't hold your breath. Neil Druckmann kind of talked about this in the next clip.
Yeah, it's so we still have a ways to go, but I'm
Sure.
kind of very excited to see. And it's like, again, these things are so complex and big, and there's so many people involved. It's like I still don't know exactly what this thing is going to look like at the end. It's like I have a theory, I have an idea, but it's still evolving and changing as we're making it.
Still a ways to go. So that leads me to say don't expect this in 2025. Maybe it'll be 2026. And then Neil says, I don't know what this game will look like at the end. And what that tells me is there's two schools of thought, right? Either one, this game is very far from completion, maybe 2027, maybe 2028, or the game is multiple parts, like we talked about. Maybe the game is called Intergalactic, and the first chapter is called The Space Heretic. And maybe chapter 1 is complete. Maybe chapter 1 launches this year in 2025, and then we consistently get one every 2 years as a brand new series. And if we're lucky enough, maybe we get the ending of the game in part 2, or maybe it goes all the way to part 10. Like, imagine that. Imagine them planning that far out, kind of like Destiny did when they launched it. They're like, we got 10 years worth of content tied into this game. I would love to see Naughty Dog do it. I'd love to see him continue. But when you look at that comment of like, I don't know how it ends, is he talking about the game or is he talking about the series? Like, maybe he knows how the first chapter ends and maybe they're ready. Maybe the game's ready to launch this year. But then you look at the other side, it's like, hey, how are you starting off on chapter 1 and still not knowing how the end of the story goes? Most people will tell you that they know what the story is before they begin the ending. So it's just kind of an interesting concept there to hear from Neil. Now, I will also say, only criticism here, and it's not really a big criticism because it's like we weren't expecting it, but there's still no gameplay. I'd love to see more gameplay from this video game so I can kind of expect. But I will say the nuggets that Neil did drop during this video are building up my hype level. I'm still not at like hype level midnight, but I'm there. I'm very close to being there. I mean, the things that get me excited right now are the 3 years of the best storytellers in the video game industry, building a history, creating a religion, and weaving a narrative for us to all experience. I mean, right there, you're talking like Star Wars level Force. Like, maybe the religion is like the Jedi religion, and you're getting like that level of commitment from Naughty Dog. Again, I mentioned Tolkien. I would love to see this game have the same backstory and the same level of depth as the Tolkien books do. And then like maybe even we get like a Game of Thrones level narrative. Right? Maybe the narrative just elevates even more to the point where we're like, man, this is just as good as Game of Thrones. Personally, I can't wait. Obviously, I'm going to have to because I would go out and bet that this game is not launching in 2025, but we will be covering Intergalactic Space Heretic along with the future of the series here on this channel. So make sure if you haven't done so already, hit that subscribe button and put your hype levels down in the comment section. I want to know, am I alone here? Am I the only one excited about this video game, or are you with me? Are you like borderline hype level midnight for this video game? Sound off, let me know in the comment section down below. Now, moving on to our next story, we got to talk about Xbox because brand new details surrounding Xbox's plans for a handheld gaming console leaked this week, along with early reports for Xbox's plans for their next-gen console. Yeah, this was a big story from this week, and I find it very funny because anytime we talk about Xbox, right, there's like this roller coaster of a ride we've been on, right? It's like, are they in gaming? Are they giving up on gaming? Are they into hardware? Or are they not doing hardware? Like, that's literally what the last 6 months have been. You know, you see Xbox launching games on rival platforms. You got Sea of Thieves, you got Indiana Jones, you got Forza, all coming to PlayStation and PC and Nintendo, and it's like, oh, they're giving up on the Xbox platform. Hardware means nothing, and it turns out this week, Xbox is still very committed to Xbox hardware because we've got Xbox handhelds and we got Xbox next-gen console details. So first up, let's pull it up. Jez Corden of Windows Central posted an article stating that Xbox's long-rumored Xbox handheld would be launching later this year. Which, look, I'm not going to question ballsiness of corporations here in America. I just have to say, launching your handheld the same year as the Nintendo Switch 2. I'm not saying it's a bad idea. I'm just saying I love the audacity. I love the audacity of corporations that are like, I don't care. I don't care that Nintendo as a little kid just came to the table and put their Lunchables down. Big boy Xbox is coming over and he's pushing that Lunchable aside and he throw down his lunch and he's like, hey, I'm here too. Now, Jez Corden of Windows Central continued on the article to say Microsoft is essentially working with a PC gaming OEM, Asus, Lenovo, MSI, or Razer to produce an Xbox branded gaming handheld that will be PC orientated to run Windows, PC Game Pass, and Steam. Which the news of Xbox's brand new gaming handheld raises a bunch of questions for me. One, you got the Switch 2, you got the PlayStation Portal, you got the Steam Deck, you got the Logitech G Cloud, you got the Asus ROG, and now an Xbox handheld. Which one do you go with? Why do you pick that one? Now, personally for me, I was leaning towards the Switch 2, but in the most recent weeks, I've been looking at the Steam Deck. I think that thing looks extremely appealing. It's very attractive for the type of gaming that I'm doing right now, but also you got the Nintendo Switch 2. You got a bunch of exclusives that are going to be coming to that platform. You don't want to ignore those. You don't want to sleep on that. So yeah, which one do you pick? Let me know in the comment section which one you think is going to be the biggest seller for this year. I'm interested to hear your feedback on that one. Now, carrying on with the story. Jez Corden did a great job over at Windows Central, but Tom Warren of The Verge, not to be one-upped, he came out and said, hold up, we got some details that everybody needs to know about this story. And Tom Warren basically came out and not only confirmed that he has heard the same details, but also stated that these handhelds are a part of Microsoft's plans to merge the Microsoft and Xbox ecosystem into one. But also, Tom Warren came out and confirmed that the partner creating this third, there's no need to say Lenovo, there's no need to say MSI, it's going to be Asus. But, big caveat here, it's not going to run Xbox games. That's right, it's going to run Windows. So, Xbox games in the Xbox ecosystem technically won't run unless those are Xbox Play Anywhere games on Xbox Game Pass PC or Xbox Cloud Gaming. And technically, now that I'm thinking about it, PlayStation games. Yeah, now that I'm thinking about it, it's kind of like an ironic backdoor situation for Xbox where for years, PlayStation's been like, we're not going to put our games on your consoles. So like Phil Spencer behind the scenes like, well, okay, you're not going to put them on our consoles. Maybe we'll make our consoles run the platforms where you're putting them on. So PlayStation's like, hey, Spider-Man 2, it's now available on Steam. Ghost of Tsushima, now available on Steam. Meanwhile, behind the scenes, Xbox is working with PC manufacturers to say, hey, let's create an Xbox handheld and an Xbox console that runs like a PC. So you could install Steam on our consoles, backdooring PlayStation games. So we're literally going to get to a point where PlayStation games like Spider-Man, Last of Us, Horizon, Days Gone, all of those games will be able to run on Xbox hardware, which I find very fascinating. And again, you know, we list all those handhelds earlier, all the different options on the market, knowing that the PlayStation games will eventually be available onto the Xbox. How does that change the landscape? Does that cause more people to jump into it? As far as like when we can expect for this handheld to launch, your guess is as good as mine. Windows Central Jez Corden did say that he heard internally that it will be revealed this summer and then launched later this year. But the economy that we are in is wild. I mean, we already talked about the fact that we're in a recession, right? Thick thighs in video games, as players like those, if players gravitate to thick-thighed women, that means we're in a recession. So spoiler alert, my friends, we are officially in a recession. What does that mean here? maybe Microsoft pumps the brakes. Maybe Microsoft says, hey, let's hold off. Let's start slowing this down. We're not going to launch it this year. Let's let the economy get a little better. Let's let people get more jobs. And then we'll launch this hardware when people have extra money to spend on it. So yeah, anytime you're going to hear something like this, if it's not coming from Xbox, obviously take it with a grain of salt. Now, outside of the handheld, obviously, the other big story here is Windows Central talking about Xbox's next-gen console, to which Windows Central Jez Corden quoted sources internally who said that Microsoft has currently slated 2027 as the launch year for Xbox's next-gen console, and it's already been greenlit by management, which, wow, that feels extremely fast. And again, I'm speaking as a Sony fan and as someone that has played majority of this generation on the PlayStation 5. For me, I feel like next gen it's too soon, right? Even like when Sony announced like the PlayStation 5 Pro, I was like, no, yeah, we're not ready for this. So, I look at my PlayStation 5 and I don't feel like it's maxed out, right? It was easier when we were in the PlayStation 4 generation because that console, every time I played a video game, its fan would literally scream like a F-15 jet engine. I'd turn on Last of Us and it'd be like that's all you would hear in the background. So when the PlayStation 5 came out, I was like, yep, you know what? It's time. It's ready. We need a new PlayStation. If Sony came to me today and was like, PlayStation 6 next year, get ready, I'd be like, no. I'm sticking with my PlayStation 5. I don't need to upgrade. And again, I say that as a Sony guy. I've also played video games on Xbox this generation, and the idea that Xbox can't handle games today is kind of weird. Because I played Indiana Jones, I played Hellblade, I also played Starfield, and I didn't really feel like those games were struggling on the Series X. I didn't feel like they were pushing the Series X to its limit. And again, if anything, I feel like this generation, the criticism hasn't been around the Xbox Series X. It's been around the Series S. So for them to be like, yeah, new console, I'm like, well, hold up. This thing's doing perfectly just fine. And again, that's just my opinion. I'd love to hear your comments on this and your opinions in the comment section down below. So please sound off. But that being said, Jez Corden did say his sources are saying that Microsoft moving forward will basically have the focus upon one next-gen console, a gaming handheld, and other controller options being available. So that is what the future of Xbox will look like. Next-gen console, obviously, we'll wait and see kind of why that's going to be better than the Xbox Series X. Xbox does have a little bit of selling on that end for me. They're going to have to sell me hard on why I need to upgrade to that console. A gaming handheld, I think sounds dope. I think it's cool. I wish it was native Xbox software, but it sounds like Xbox is moving to a Windows environment, so it makes sense that they're kind of trying to get everything over to there. New controller options. I will say, we talked about this, I think it was last year on the show. Xbox currently is working on a Wi-Fi enabled controller, kind of like the old school Stadia controller. And if Xbox launches a Wi-Fi controller to work with cloud gaming, that's going to be so awesome. Because say what you will about Google Stadia, but their controller was absolutely fantastic for cloud gaming. It didn't connect to your TV via Bluetooth. It didn't have like, oh, you got to communicate through your TV to the Wi-Fi. No. The controller itself was Wi-Fi enabled, so the controller communicated directly to the cloud servers, which then communicated back to your TV, and it worked marvelously for that platform. And I think if Xbox did come out with like a Wi-Fi enabled controller, it would elevate their cloud gaming platform massively. So anyway, interesting news for Xbox. We'll obviously be paying very close attention to these stories as they develop and covering them here on the channel. If you haven't done so already, please make sure to hit that subscribe button for more Xbox gaming news as we continue. And yeah, that's going to wrap up this week's episode of the show. Thank you guys so much. We got a brand new mic. I don't think I mentioned that in the intro. New mic. So if the show sounds off, blame it on the mic. We're trying to figure that out on the back end. But I did want to take a chance to talk to you guys one-on-one about the future of the channel. Because hopefully, as you've noticed, specifically on this week's show, a lot of big changes, right? Big changes in the intro, some new big changes with graphics. We're trying to create the show to look better. We're trying to reformat what we do on a weekly show for this podcast and also for this show on YouTube. And I wanted to take a second to just kind of tell you where I'm at. So currently, I'm struggling with Nerf Gaming News Plus, especially the daily content, because it's so time consuming, it's so draining. It also pulls me away from focusing on like the weekly show and making this show as good as possible. So we made the decision internally to start moonlighting or sunsetting, I don't know what the term is, but anyway, walking away from the daily content. So following this week, daily content is pretty much going to be gone on Nerf Gaming News Plus, along with any of the exclusive behind-the-scenes content as well. So we're going to be kind of redefining it, and if you have an issue, please get with me personally in my DMs or communicate with me, and we'll take care of refunds, and we'll get you your money back. But my idea is that I would like to take all the resources going into the daily, all the resources going into those other shows, and putting them directly into this show to make sure that the show is as good as it can be. Because it's a one-man show, right? It's me. I'm the only one that does it. I'm on here. I do the writing. I do the editing. I do the graphics, the inlays, all the musics. Like, that's all me. Uploading it to the podcast sites, that's all me. So I'd love to put all my resources into this one thing. And then as we grow, and then as the channel continues and we get more resources and we can help and bring other people in, that's where I would like to revisit the Nerf Gaming News Plus. So for the time being, we're going to pause the daily content for the Nerf Gaming News Plus, and we're going to be investing into this show and making this show as good as possible. Some of the things I would like to accomplish firsthand is I want to bring guests on. I've already started reaching out to other creators and podcast hosts that I thoroughly enjoy watching that I would love to be able to bring on here. For example, like talking about Xbox, I'm a PlayStation guy. I play PlayStation significantly more than I play Xbox. So I would love to have an Xbox person that I could lean on as an analyst or as an expert to bring them on the show to throw in their insight, but also give some more details on top of bringing developers. So if it's something that you're interested in, if it's something you'd like to participate, like to come on the show, like to talk about topics, please let me know in the comment section. We're making some big strides on that end to get a hold of people. And if there's developers that you would like to see on the show, obviously let us know in the comment section or tag us on social media, letting us know to reach out to those people, because I want to start bringing a lot more people and evolving the show in the sense that it's not just gaming news, but it's also just a community show. It's not about me, it's about all of us, and I want to make this show as good as possible. So that's kind of where we're headed. Obviously, that's why we got a new mic, that's why we got new camera angles, that's why we got the graphics and the inlays and the music changes and the intro changes. We're just trying to make this the best show possible. So I hope y'all see that vision, and I appreciate those of you that continue on this road. And Nerf Gaming News Plus, the monetary stuff is still going to be there where you can support our channel financially if you want to. It just doesn't mean new content. All it means is you like what we're doing, you want to see more of it, you want to see us grow this channel, and I appreciate you joining us on this journey. So anyway, that is going to be it for this week's episode of the Nerf Report. Thank you again so much for hanging out with me this week. As always, sound off in the comment section down below with your thoughts. And until next time, my friends, we will see you in the next video.